I'd like to call to
This
order.
conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the Parks, Recreation, Forestry Department Board meeting for Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Mark Castonio,
Here.
Donovan Miller,
Here.
Tracy Flukie, here. Heidi Murphy, here. Deb Lundberg, Chris Serbel, and Aideen Hess are all excused.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Number 4, action on the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections or changes to the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved to second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Comments from the public? I don't see any public here, so we can go on to number 6. Written communications. I didn't see any. No written communications. Good. Number 7, action on the consent agenda, which consists mainly of approval of the minutes from the June 15th, 2021 meeting. Anybody have any corrections or comments concerning it? No. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to accept as presented.
I'll move to approve those.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, action items. Action on bid recommendation for Sherwood Forest project.
Okay, Sue, were you able to hand out the bid tab to the
Yep.
members?
Everybody
Okay,
has.
awesome.
Oh, I don't think I gave it to Joel.
All right, so we opened up the single bid that we received for the Sherwood Forest Boardwalk this morning. Thought we would get more than that. It's okay, it still is in the price range that we thought it would be in. We had quite a few questions from different contractors all over the board in the last 2 weeks or so on the project. So we had thought and we were told we're going to get more in than that. But Custom Manufacturing did submit a bid. Custom Manufacturing is a contractor who supplies modular board, or builds, manufactures modular boardwalk as well as installs it. And they actually were out a couple of weeks ago to take a look at the project, measure it up, and they were really the only one who did that. And they're the ones that submitted the bid. The bid amount you have in front of you, $43,200. That's talking with Stantec, who is our engineer on the project, or helps us design it and work with some of the things going on in Sherwood. They've worked with Custom Manufacturing in the past on other projects, and they said they've not had any issues with them, and felt that they were certainly a good supplier and good business to work with if that's who we proceed forward with. So I guess what I'll do is open it up if there's any questions. What we typically do is if everyone is comfortable with Custom Manufacturing, we would forward that to Village Board with a recommendation to look at that for approval.
Okay, is there any discussion? Anybody have any questions concerning the bid of
Rex,
the project?
I'm sorry, was the budget, what was the budget for the project? Did you have a budget kind of set specifically for this boardwalk? And did it come in
Well,
within that?
So what we had, Tracy, we've got about $85,000 from the cell tower rental across the street when we put the cell tower in. So we got the first 5 years for that. And then we had also planned on using some park development funds as well. I think we had earmarked about $75,000 from park development to supplement the 85,000. So we've got a full budget of over 150 on this, and really, I don't even know if we're going to be getting into the park development money. I think we'll be fairly close to using up the cell tower money. Talking with Stantec, just in terms of the overall square footage and what they've seen, the thought was somewhere between 35 and 50,000, of what the boardwalk would cost for the actual boardwalk itself and installation, and that's pretty much the window of where we are, with this particular bid.
What did you say the Cellcom amount that we have set aside is?
It's a little over 85. I want to say it's 85, 86,000. So that was the first 5 years of revenue. The village board voted to move that forward. Obviously, I think it was about 6 years ago, actually, when Cellcom was looking to put that tower in. That was a kind of a sore point for a number of years. They were trying to get that in there, and it finally worked out with the design and the revenue and the need, quite honestly. Sorry, everyone, I've got a wonderful chest cold that I'm sounding a little rough tonight. So if you've been to Sherwood Forest, you'll see it's already been brushed out, about a 20-foot width, going in on the north side of the pond all the way back to the far west part of the trail system. It connects actually to some of the bridges we have way in back. So it's a pretty good stretch. It's I believe it's over a quarter mile for the stretch, which is really good. But we've got a couple challenges that we'll need to do before this boardwalk is put in, so the timing of it would work out for all parties involved. We're looking at renting different protective matting that we would put down in the wetland areas right now, and then we would go into the trail area. There's 2 culverts that would need to be installed by our own crews, just because of some of the steepness of it. We have a portable stump grinder, self-propelled stump grinder lined up to take out some of the stumps that are within the pathway area. And then we're going to be making a lot of trips of crusher dust from Shady Lane once everything else is taken care of, and basically starting at the far end and working our way back and putting a layer of probably 3 to 4 inches of crusher dust down, crushed gravel for the trail itself. Once that trail itself is put in where it needs to be, we'd remove the matting, and then the contractor would come in and install the actual boardwalk itself. And on top of that, then we'd also be able to take out some of the brush that's been piled up in there. We can't leave any of the brush, within the wetland area. It has to be pulled out. So because of the amounts of some of that stuff that's back there, we're waiting for the trail to be put in before we actually do that. Questions?
Any comments or questions?
My only question is this like a floating boardwalk essentially?
It's somewhat similar to what's in Sherwood Forest right now. Pans are going to be more noticeable. They're bigger pans which hold the ground more. So what I mean by a pan, the boardwalk is going to probably be about 18 inches or so off the ground, roughly, give or take a little bit. It'll come down on posts, and then there'll be a 18 by 18, 20 by 20 metal pan that sits on the ground, and that keeps it from sinking down into the ground, and it keeps the boardwalk level. So it'll be similar to what's in there now, probably more ADA compliant than what we have in there right now as well.
So Rex, just to clarify, excuse me, the project is within budget with this amount, fits into what the budget amount is.
Yep.
And also the bid, having only one bidder, is reasonable based on what Santax was saying, between 35 and 50,000 for this particular part of it. So
Correct.
with that, if there's no other questions, I would make a motion to approve the bid from Custom Manufacturing at $43,200.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the project at the base, at the price of $43,200 as submitted by Custom Manufacturing. Any further comment or concerns?
I do want to say one thing more, and I didn't do it on here, and I should have. I did put in, thinking for the village board, I wanted to throw in a contingency because you never know what's going to happen. So I did throw in, or I want to throw in as it goes forward, and I didn't, I totally forgot about it when I did this, but a 5% contingency would be another, I want to say $3,000 or $3,100. So not saying that we're even going to need it, but just in case, that way, we don't have to keep coming back and revisiting an issue in case something would be needed. That was unexpected.
I think we can accept the motion as presented then.
With a 5%.
Do you want us to,
contingency.
yeah, as I say, do you want to add the 5% contingency in
If someone
there?
would be willing to do that, if you'd be willing to change that.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, so I'll move that. Heidi, will you second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good, motion carried.
Thank you.
We got that. Okay, next item. Review and possible action on West Main Avenue Trail recommendation.
Real similar process for this as the Sherwood Forest. So we did the bid opening at 10 o'clock this morning for the West Main Avenue Trail. There were 3 bidders for that particular project. Let me get my sheet out here, sorry. So Peters Concrete, Yankee, and Michaels Corporation were all bid on the West Main Avenue Trail extension. This is between Sand Acres Drive and South Ridge Road. So basically from Sand Acres Drive eastward to South Ridge, which is the corner of where Monroe Truck is. The low bid on that, boy, I need better cheaters. $370,102.25. So all the bids were between $370,000 and $389,000. So they were fairly tight in terms of the numbers. But Peters Concrete was a low bid with the $370,102.25. This is the project that we've been working on for multiple years now. It's kind of a reduced project. We were hoping a couple of years ago to get it all the way to the traffic circles at Highway 41, but just due to the timing and due to the unknown costs and extremely high costs of the utility relocations, we just decided to move forward at this point from Sand Acres to South Ridge. TIF 4 dollars expire, I believe, in spring of 2022. So we wanted to make sure that whatever project length we did on this, that we were able to get it done so that we were able to use those funds that are in TIF 4. Again, utility relocation is already done. The cost on this, the 370, includes a box culvert. Basically, that's like a concrete extension, which will go over the creek. Think of it as a concrete bridge, basically, that the water goes underneath, kind of holds the trail up, that it'll be put over the box culvert. That's one of the higher cost items on the list here, if you can read some of that small print on the addendum that Sue handed out tonight. We've worked with Peters Concrete before. The village has, the Park and Rec Department has. There's been no issues with Peters. We've had a good working relationship with them. And with that, my recommendation is to accept that bid and forward it on to the village board. So I guess I will ask if there's any questions on the project itself or anything involved with it.
Rex, does the bid include signage or the bollards or anything out there for that trail, or is that something that will come separate?
That's something that would come separate. I mean, we've got park development money. Once the trail's in, we can actually take a better look of where we need certain things. Some of the signage, I believe, Tracy, is included, But I have no doubt that once the trail's in, that we may need to put another sign in here or there, maybe some extra stop bars or something, depending upon on how it actually looks once it's put in.
Okay, so we may come back and do maybe some more signage if there's not,
Yeah.
or
We-
whatever,
we-
I don't know what's included, or the bollards, if we're going to put those in at all, and if they're painting like stop lines and stuff, is that included in this contract, do you know?
Well, I don't know where
That's
what bollards are we talking about?
I don't know if they're going to put bollards in, as his ask, sometimes on trails are the center, right, the
Yeah,
center
no,
trail.
no plans
No bollards.
for the
Okay.
bollards. So we don't have them on, we've got them on some sections of trail, but
Great.
typically, no. Not on this section. We didn't plan for that.
Okay, I think that's good, I'm glad they're not.
Tracy, yeah, pavement marking and DOT required signage for traffic control purposes is included
Is
in this.
included, okay, great.
Any comments from board members, questions? Or Rick?
And Tracy, what I mean by additional signage, like a lot of times, like on the Packerland Trail, we have, with the trail section there being expanded, we could do mile markers and different things just for people walking to.
Like locator signage or
Yeah,
something like
just,
that,
I
or
mean,
wait.
there's all kinds of things. It
Yep,
depends
okay.
how fancy we want to get, but there is funding. There is certainly park development funding available to do that
Okay,
for this.
yeah, I was wondering more about what Joel had said, the
Yeah.
DOT signage.
And the
Oh, it
line
sounds
items
like
do
that's
show.
included.
Yeah, the line items show that. McMahon did a lot of work in terms of, I've got sheets of signage of,
Oh, I'm
do you
sure.
like this, do you like that? And
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Okay. Then the other question I have again is, what was the original budget for this? Is this within budget again?
Well, again, the original budget was allotted, it was like 1.5 million, but that was supposed to go all the way down to the traffic circle.
Yep.
So we're nowhere close to that. We're probably, Greg at this point was able to have a little over $100,000, and we have some utility relocation. So we're certainly less than $1 million on this section.
Okay.
It's not a long section, but there was a tremendous amount of utility relocation, tremendous amount with WPS, with fiber optic cable lines, with telephone lines. I mean, it was just, it was a lot of relocation, and that does not come cheap.
And this is TIF, is that correct? All the
TIF
funding?
4, yep,
TIF
TIF 4, and I believe there was 100,000 earmarked in park development for this as well.
Is the goal still to get down to the traffic circles eventually, or is that?
It is, it
Okay.
is. So there's, whether we do it in one part or two still, our goal is to continue to the east. I think the Van Farm property, which is up on top of the hill, that house, there's a fairly big open field behind it. So the thought is, and it's being farmed right now, and obviously, there's no trail going through. There's a Sand Acres Park Trail, which is a crusher dust trail that ends on the northern part of the park. And eventually that will shoot out to one of the side streets off of Main. So that's going to be one section that we know will probably eventually happen. If that farm land eventually turns into development. So, I mean, there's no hurry to do that. It's just out there, and we kind of know that in the long-range plans, we will do that. From there, we want to go to the traffic circles. That's a little bit more challenging because of the bridge that's there going over, going over the Ashwaubenon Creek tributary. It could be extremely expensive to keep a 10-foot wide trail there, but so we're thinking potentially, there's already a sidewalk on the bridge part of West Main. So we're thinking from that side street, just east of Harmon Studios, the photography studio there. From there to the traffic circle, we might financially need to do a sidewalk, which then turns into the trail.
Got it.
But I think that's kind of, at least as a director, my long-range plans for how this will develop.
The traffic circle, going to the east on your map here, that heads out towards the shopping area there with Festival Foods.
Yep.
Is there a way to walk through the traffic circles under 41,
There is.
the existing now?
So all we would need to do is make that connection. From the start of the traffic circle, the western traffic circle and then going under 41. And then there's the eastern,
Where's
two
the boundary
traffics.
with the pier there then?
what's that?
Where's the boundary, where's the, like, village line or where the pier starts over there? Or is that all Ashwaubenon?
It's, no, the boundary line is literally at the western traffic circle,
Okay. So, okay,
just east of the bridge.
got it.
So if you say the boundary, Ashwaubenon, then that planting bed, the large planting bed that is to the west of the westernmost roundabout.
That was a
Is that
land-
Ashwaubenon or is that De Peers?
The planting beds for the roundabouts and whatnot are technically De Peers. That was a land swap that happened probably back in 2010 or so. That was Ashwaubenon. And then Ashwaubenon also had land behind Aldi's. In fact, so we didn't want to have to take care of all the traffic circles and those beds, so we gave the pier, I think, that piece of property behind Aldi's, I think where there's some apartments there right now. I think it also includes Aldi's. That was Ashwaubenon. There's a real subsection. At the same time, we gave them the western traffic circle and said, if you take this, we'll also give you this, but you need to maintain it as well.
So
So
A
so
and
that keeps our crews from having to go out there. So that was a decision that was made by administration back in like 2010.
So is that A&W in that gas station? Is that,
That is actually
Lawrence?
Lawrence, I believe.
whew. Okay,
So it's kind of a
They got
triangular De Pere,
plant their
Lawrence,
own flowers
Ashwaubenon
over
border
there.
there. What's that?
Plant their own flowers there.
So then the planting bed is De Peers, all those planting beds along all those
De Pere's
roundabouts
responsibility.
is De Peers' responsibility. Okay, because that one that is to the west looks like heck.
De Pere's
It looks terrible.
responsibility.
I know they're working on the other ones, and then I thought maybe the one was ours.
Nope.
Because nothing was done with it, but they've been doing work, I know, on all the other ones there, so it's unfortunate, because it's an entrance into Ashwaubenon.
Yep.
And I don't know if a call to De Pere to say, hey, what's going on with that planting bed, because no one has touched it in years. I mean, there are weeds out there that are taller than me. So I don't, just to check and see what's going on with that, because it's coming right into Ashwaubenon.
That was part of the land swap.
All right. And it's, I don't know if by accident it's happened, but someone's been cutting along that sidewalk on the bridge on maybe the south side of West Main.
I saw that.
I appreciate that, because now if people are walking, at least they can walk on there and it's not, they've cut all the weeds all the way along that section, so.
Yeah, it used to be real overgrown, and I remember our conversation, Tracy, from
yeah, so
back
thank
in
you.
the fall or last summer. I think it was back in the fall, and
Yeah.
you know, I've kept an eye on it. It's like, well, someone's cutting it.
Yeah, I don't know if the county's out there or who's cutting it, but it's nice, so if people are actually walking there, they can access the sidewalk now in that area.
Yeah, that itself, I mean, it shows, you will see as that area starts to develop more, you'll see the need, as more people are unfortunately walking on Main, you know, when they shouldn't be, for that sidewalk and the trail to eventually get to the traffic circle.
Well, and they almost have to, where else are they going to go, Rex, if they're, you know what I mean?
What's that?
There's nowhere else for them to go. They almost have to walk there. If they're going over to festival,
Yep,
there's nowhere else to go. So it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of it.
I mean, the safer route is actually, you know, 5 times as long, where you probably go to the south and take Grant Street and loop all the way around
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to,
around the backside, but you've got traffic issues there as well, because there's
Yeah.
no sidewalk or trail there.
Exactly.
It's just less busy.
yeah, that's true.
Any other comments or questions?
Sorry, off track here.
Any concerns, Rex, with the subcontractors that are listed, Martel, Northeast Asphalt, the highway landscapers, if you worked with them and any?
I know Public Works has worked with highway landscapers before. Highway landscapers also did some work out at the sports complex for us on the plaza reconstruction. We've had no issues with it.
Okay,
And Northeast has always been good with
yeah,
us, so.
yeah. Martel.
All right, I'll move to approve the bid of $370,102.25 to Peters Concrete for this project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Peters Concrete contract.
I need to make another quick point, sorry.
Your 5%?
Same thing, actually, this is a 10% one because of
Okay.
the size of the job. So it's probably another 37,000 roughly.
That's not small change.
If we come across soft soils or something that's something weird, you know, if something weird happens, it's probably going to be in the culverts construction. That dollar amount's going to be used up fairly quickly. But that's normal for that. Most public works projects like this have a 10% contingency.
Yeah.
I asked for a 5% on the Sherwood Forest one only because it's a much smaller project in scope. But 10% is normal on a PW project.
All right, I'll move to approve as amended with the 10% buffer.
There we go.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it looks like it was passed. Next item on the agenda,
So the next item, excuse me,
discussion of the Corp project.
yeah, so it is discussion on the core projects. At our last park board meeting, we each of us voted, or all the park board members voted, to rank their projects of what they wanted to see, priority-wise. And what I did is took kind of the rankings, you know, like one person might rank something number 1 and another one number 3. And so I added them all together, subdivided them to get an overall ranking, an average score. And you can see what the average scores are in the box on page 13 of your packet. The number 1 project was to replace the Smith Park playground structure. Again, that's an ADA park, so it'll be an ADA structure with some rubberized surfacing, you know, that I bring forward. Number 2, in terms of your voting priorities, was the kayak launch. Number 3 was the Fort Howard Park restroom with splash pad with building option for a splash pad. In other words, to add a little bit extra onto the building to be able to put a recirculation pump or just some clean out ports in there. Number 4 was the Ashwaubenon Lake Sun Shelter, and number 5 was the Aubensure Park accessible pathway. So those are the projects that I will be bringing forward to our administration when we go through the budget process. I don't know what at this point what the financial situation of the village is coming out of COVID, and of course COVID is picking back up. So who knows what's going to happen on this? You know, it's kind of the scary thing. We a lot of times our funding has also been supplemented by the United Service Agreement, which is a little bit up in the air right now. So I don't know where we're going to be on these projects, but that is what I'm going to be submitting for the Corp projects. I'll also be submitting some maintenance projects, routine maintenance and Corp maintenance, crack sealing, that type of thing is normal. But these are the Corp projects in the order that, just so you have it in front. I didn't know if there will, I know Sue said she mailed them all out to you, but I didn't know if you wanted to have any additional discussion on it or you're good with where they're at.
So basically, this is the order that they're in, and we'll just dock them off as we get the money for them.
On the top 5, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is the order based on the rankings that everyone gave.
Yep.
Adding them all together and then coming up with a mean.
Okay.
Can you remind me the age group on that Smith Park replacement?
The Smith Park one is 5 to 12, so
5 to
it's an
12,
older
okay.
one, yeah.
Okay, I guess that's all we need on that. It's just for our information, right?
Yeah, unless anyone had any other additional comments. I
Yeah.
brought it forward just to make sure everyone's comfortable.
Thanks for doing that. It's very easy to read
Good.
and
Thank you.
comprehensive, so appreciate that.
Rex, in your green sheet, you talked about maintenance issues. There are also maintenance issues which need to be addressed on other facilities, not part of Corp, so it's kind of in the general fund budget and
Right.
maintenance things.
Yep.
when thinking of maintenance, and I don't know what you all have in your maintenance ideas, and maybe it's not even pertinent at this point or with this agenda, but there's a couple of more maintenance type things I was thinking of that are bigger costs. Like, for instance, I think the Packerland Trail, the north end of the Packerland Trail needs some major work. There are like, when you're riding that, it is like boom, boom, boom. There's so many cut across that have just sunk. And that's been there for a long time. Then the question is, who's responsible for repair of that? It
Oh,
was a Brown-
we would be.
We would be, okay, because there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Brown County project originally. I didn't know how that worked, if they would be doing that, but, okay, so we would be responsible for that.
Yeah.
And then the Industrial Park Trail is another one it's starting to really slough off a lot on that.
It is.
The creek side, I mean, it's almost 2-3 feet into the trail now that it's starting to break away. And if nothing else, maybe budget for like an engineering study of it, just to say, what do we have to do to get this thing back, and then get costs, and then maybe budget for it in a different year. But it's just starting to get, I mean, the trail's almost getting to the point where it's,
It's starting
6
to,
feet
starting
wide
to
now.
slide towards the creek.
yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know, again, maybe that's already in your mind for maintenance type stuff, but
It
just,
is.
yeah, okay,
is.
just to see, just to keep that in mind, I guess, with the budget, because those are, bigger items, and
Yep.
some, I mean,
Those are
the
bigger
industrial
items. I
park
mean,
would be,
the sports complex
major.
parking lot is probably going to be about
yes,
400,000 per lot. So that, close to $1 million for that. There's always big items and smaller items.
Yep.
But there are some big ones that are out there that are looming.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Maybe that's something we should put on the agenda for our upcoming meeting to discuss maintenance needs and financing that's available. Because the more we talk about it, the more items seem to be popping up that.
Well,
are-
we've got a list, Mark, of, I mean, literally I could go to a park and there's 50 things that we could do at any park to make it better, safer, more attractive. I mean, it's endless, but typically some of the things that Tracy's talking about,
Yeah,
the smoothness of the trail, or if it's starting to slough off, or the parking lot deterioration, those are the ones that have to take the priority. So we can certainly, I can bring forward some of those items for discussion at the next meeting. I mean, we'll be well into the budget process by then, but any and all of those are things we've talked about. I mean, even, excuse me, I mean, tennis court maintenance, the sports complex tennis courts are ugly right now. You know what I mean? Things are heaving and there's cracks coming in again, and we're redoing Smith Park courts this year with crack sealing and repainting. But everything, maintenance is a huge expense. Nicer things you get eventually need to be repaired.
it might be a good idea if we did have some kind of a list to know what's going on as far as, because some of the projects I'm sure are more critical than others because of maybe a danger aspect to it.
So at the August meeting, if you so desire, I can certainly put together some thoughts on more critical maintenance projects that are,
Yeah,
I don't want to say looming, but going to need some attention in the
Yeah.
upcoming years.
it doesn't have to be anything real elaborate, just a kind of a basic list so we know what we're going to be up against in the future.
Sure, and I want to even say at one of the past park board meetings, just a couple months ago, there's a couple different sheets. One of them was the corp plan, but there's also another capital project plan that some of those maintenance items, some of them were in there as well. So I'll take some of the ones that are, and that one is a 10-year plan also, type of a thing. So I'll pull some of those ones out of that, as well as some of the other maintenance issues that are forthcoming. AGSA has asked for some improvements to Pioneer. Boys Baseball has asked for some improvements to their complex. So there's just a lot of things out there, and
Because we don't want
Figure it
anybody
out.
falling in a hole or something and,
No,
causing a problem.
we don't want those holes, no.
No.
Well, and I'm sure, Rex, you have a whole list and you kind of prioritize them and know what's the most important items that need to be addressed.
I'll need to talk with you about the Packerland Trail, though, because I don't think I've been on the section,
Yeah.
what you're saying.
The
where it's
south
gets
part
up.
is good, but the north is really getting pretty
Like
tough to ride.
up north, up,
Like I'd say from 172 south to Wabi is the worst section.
oh,
There's
I
just,
ride,
there's just a lot of
businesses.
driveways there, and
Yeah.
what happens was, as more businesses come in,
right, no, I ride my bike on that.
yeah, they put driveways in there, so
Got a real nice
it's certainly not
cruiser.
as flat and smooth as it was.
Yeah.
You know, at what point does it become unsafe? I'm,
I grew up riding bike on gravel and potholes, so.
there's a couple areas that, that have sunk, I know where you're talking about.
Yeah.
One of them was partially, I thought, repaired when Exhibit Resources kind of redid they kind of fixed that up a little bit, because that was starting to get,
Yeah.
from the driveway that was put in. But I think the Industrial Park Trail, quite honestly, is one of out of the big projects, it's one of the ones that needs some attention probably in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Figuring out what to do.
Yeah.
For maintenance wise, because I don't know what that answer is.
Yeah. I mean,
You
you're
know,
almost,
I'm almost scared to find out.
I know, it's almost like you'd have to have someone go in and look at it and do like an engineer, look at it to design it, because it needs some major work, unfortunately, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's
I mean, it's a great
it's
trail.
either bringing in more material and putting a new trail on top of the new material,
Right.
or strengthening the side by driving in piles along the areas where it's sinking the most. You know, kind of almost like a retaining wall type of thing to keep it from sloughing in.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the best
Yeah.
way to do it is.
Yeah. I don't either.
All right. Next item is the July Parks, Recreation and Forestry Department report.
So, a lot of things that have been happening. I'll just try and hit some of the highlights. An update on the marina, the bulbs at the end of the north and the south marina have been poured. We're waiting for a couple more days for the concrete to solidify, and then they're going to be putting additional riprap around the exterior of those bulbs to keep the wave action from repeating the same issue as before. So that was done. The concrete was poured probably about a week and a half ago. The exploratory soil sampling for the proposed Ashwaubenon River Trail Bridge will be done the first 2 weeks in August. I believe that's going to be done on both banks of where the landings are going to be for the bridge, as well as in the river where they will get a barge and they will do the soil sampling. Dig down into not dig, but pull, put a pipe down in there and see where they hit bedrock. Hopefully it's not too far down, and we'll have some good solid ability to put the pilings in. What that will do for the soil sampling is that will tell us basically how deep we have to go with the pilings and what kind of pilings will best be used or will do the best job in there. That's probably one of the bigger cost determining factors of the project, is what the subsoil is going to be in the water. We just put this in. We just got a little library. We had a donation from Jackie Scheckinger, who donated a little library to our department, and that was just installed at Sherwood Forest. We still need to stock it, but that was just put in by staff a couple of days ago.
Anybody can stock it, right?
Anyone can stock it. So if you've got some kids' books or even some adult books, I mean, there's a lot of kids, a lot of adults that
Where
walk in
at Sherwood Park is it?
That
I can't
is-
get bit by a mosquito, okay? Delivering books. I have,
It is just south of the pond where the trail going into Sherwood Forest meets the parallel trail
Okay.
along Shady.
I'll go
You'll see
deliver
it.
some books
It's-
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's maybe about 20 feet in.
I think if you're going Shady Lane, you'll probably see it.
Yeah. I can't, like mosquitoes, no. Mm-mm.
I asked for a grant extension from the 2017 NRDA GLRI grant. That will allow us to plant some sedges, some trees, as well as the signage that we would like to put on the bridge if the bridge gets approved in time and whatnot. But there's still about $6,000 left in our grant,
much
which
is left?
expired this year. So we've got another year extension on that.
How much was left? I'm sorry, Rex, I missed that.
About 6,000,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So it'll get us some stuff.
Yep.
And then we've started the process to create our wildflower butterfly pollinator beds on the west side of the sports complex behind the softball fields. We're browning out the areas right now, taking care of the grass, which will eventually be tilled into the soil. We'll let it decompose. If we haven't tilled it in already, haven't been out there in about a week. One of our park maintenance guys thought of this project. He thought it would be a good project, a good place to do it, and I agreed. So we're moving forward on that. We'll be planting seed probably in late September, early October. That's the time that the seed companies say is best to do it for these types of gardens. It'll take about 2 years to fully germinate. We're looking forward to seeing how that turns out. Kind of something neat back there that we haven't tried anything like that before.
Would Tim be the person to know the details of what types of plants and so forth?
We haven't ordered the seed yet. It's online. There's a particular seed company that a number of communities have used to purchase bulk bagged seed. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's in the Midwest. But Tim's not really involved with the project. Dan DeBush, who is one of our park maintenance people, is the one who suggested it, and I gave the go-ahead to run with it. They're perennial flowers.
Yeah.
How big of beds are they about, Rex? I mean,
What's that?
how big of beds are they? Or how big a
Oh,
bed will it be?
they're long stretches.
Oh, nice.
They're long stretches. It won't be a small bed. It'll be a field, basically. Concerts in the park are going well. Our numbers are higher than they've ever been, quite honestly. I don't know if anyone went to Let Me Be Frank last week, but we probably had 12 or 1,300 people easily at that. I mean, it was busy. They were parking up in the high school parking lot.
They were really compressed together a lot.
Yeah.
A lot more than.
And tomorrow will be another good one. The weather's supposed to be nice. Daddy D Productions is there, and he also brings in a nice crowd. So that'll be a fun one. So they're going over very well. People are itchy to get out and be outside.
The food truck rally canceling, was that?
That was in June, and we had
It was
one
right.
last week.
Did that, okay, the one that got canceled. Did we talk about it getting canceled?
What's that?
Did we talk about the one that got canceled because of the rain?
We haven't talked about it, no.
No. Was that pretty impactful? Like, was that pretty, like, financially impactful? Did that, like, make the vendors less than thrilled?
There's a couple issues. I mean, number one, at the time we canceled in the morning, it was 70% chance of rain. And you have to do it early in the morning.
Yeah.
If not literally the day before, because vendors go out and they buy their product.
Right.
And they start prepping them like 5 or 6 in the morning. They
Right.
start prepping their food. So they want to know, hey, are we having it or not? Because if we don't cancel it early enough, then they're out not only the revenue, but all of their product, because now they have nowhere to sell their product.
Right.
You know what I mean? That they've already prepped. It started raining that night. Well, at noon, then it was down to like 50% chance of rain. And then it did start raining, I want to say, about 7. I'm still glad we canceled it, because and the bands are too, because you have to remember, and that was a bad rain night.
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, it was at the softball field and got
Yeah,
caught
it was like
in that?
sideways. It was like sideways rain.
Like
So
heavy, very heavy.
heavy sideways rain. And even though we have a tent protecting the band, the band, well, most bands, unless it's a solo performer, usually have tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Equipment, right?
And if there's a chance of rain like that, a lot of them won't even set up. So I had also contacted the band that morning, and they said, it's, kind of iffy. We're not real excited about it, and that pretty much put it over the top, where we just decided to cancel it. But now the one this past month, last week went over very well. Had really nice crowds, good numbers.
The lines, how were the lines?
Not as bad as the
First one?
May one.
Okay.
I agree. The first one was obnoxious.
Brutal, right? I was at the first one. I was in the UP last weekend, or last week, so I couldn't go to that.
No,
This
it
one
was,
went
things went,
Did you have more trucks? Or were there more trucks?
we did. There's a couple things. We had more food trucks. We had 9 versus 8, but there's a difference within food trucks. There's food trucks, and then
Right.
there's dessert trucks.
Right.
So we had eliminated one of the dessert trucks, or they weren't able to do it on that event. So we had a food truck replacing it, plus we
Plus
added
this.
another food
Okay.
truck. So really, we had 2 more food trucks than the past rally.
Got it.
So with that, and we
What's on the
also-
docket for August, so I know if I can
we
wait in line or
also, we
not?
also were much better stocked on beverages and change and everything. So the lines, the lines went very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing like the May one.
Well, if I can make it through May, I suppose I can try again, right?
Yeah, no, the July one was a good one. We've got another one coming up. I want to say it's on August 12th or 13th, whatever that Thursday is. Carbon Road Band, really good band. 8 food trucks there again.
I know I had to stress to all the baseball. I told all my coaches, make sure you tell your families to get there early because now May,
Yeah.
I think I was by the sanitation area there waiting, crawling, and like, oh my God, I got to
Yep.
play baseball. And, granted, I went
Luckily,
early.
we've got parking on the outside of the roadway there. 'cause
Yeah.
the
Is there
lot-
much, it doesn't appear there's much damage. Now, it hasn't been wet, but people they're starting to park wherever they want now. Like, I'm seeing it on our tournament weekend. Just, there's a lot of cars and
There
people
are,
are kind of
yep.
parking how they want.
There are, and it's been wet lately, and with the water in the ditches, things are a little bit softer, so.
Yeah.
What we typically do at the end of the season or in the spring is we'll roll some of those out so that things are flat again.
I did get a lot of compliments talking to people that came in outside for our last, it was 8, 10, and 11 U tournament. We had a lot of people from outside staying here, New Berlin, Sauk Prairie, and they absolutely love the park. So
Good.
we got a lot of great compliments,
Good to hear.
not only about the park, but just the conditions of the park and how we ran the tournament and stuff. So it was really
Good.
good. And they'll come back, they said. So,
Good to hear.
yeah.
This evening, if you have no plans, feel free to stop by Smith Park. We have our neighborhood special event at Smith tonight.
The Bucks are playing.
What's that?
The Bucks are playing.
And the Bucks are playing. Dave, yeah, classic, right? It'll be interesting how many people show up for the movie.
Well, it's interesting how many people like the Bucks right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on the Bucks band.
I've never heard of
As they should.
Right. I went to a game once when I lived in Milwaukee.
But we still have the movie going and the event going on tonight. So I'll be stopping on the way home to grab a hot dog and see if there's anything left. I think I mentioned the work on the fall brochure, fall-winter brochure has already started. So they're already planning their programs and what we're going to be doing during the winter months. I know it doesn't say it on here, but we're also working, kind of organizing a group, trying to work on the village's 150th anniversary is next year. It's our sesquicentennial, so 150 years, and we're coupling that with the Ashwaubenon Blast. It'll be a week long of events. The blast will actually be 3 days long. Then there'll also be some Monday through Thursday events that are happening over at the community center area. So we're just planning that out, working with a lot of the community groups, with the school district in meetings, and just trying to figure out what events we want to be doing.
Is there like an idea of what events will be offered or anything?
What's that?
Is there like an idea of events that will be offered or like
That's what we're working on.
Okay,
We're trying,
there's
we're
no,
trying to
like,
figure that out, you know.
brilliant idea
A
out
lot
there
of the
yet?
stuff in 1972 might not be appropriate to be doing right now, so we're trying to figure out.
No.
We're trying to figure out what events to do, what events are popular. So.
I
It'll be a
wasn't
big-
born in 1972. I'm really sorry. I don't know.
It'll be a big wing ding. I was at the 72 and I think I rode my bike there when I was about 9 years old. Yeah, 10 years old. I remember it. I remember the carnival, the animals, tug of war games. The whole thing was set up at Clipstein Park with the old community center as the home base. The shopping mall across the street was not built yet, strip mall, and I want to say some of the carnival games and animals were set up over there on the turf. It was fun. We'll see what happens this year. They had elephants. You can probably, Tracy, you can probably guess who brought the elephants in.
I can,
Yeah,
I
and then
know,
and then
yes.
we had
I've
like,
heard the
was it
story.
was it John Glenn that we had? I mean, we had like Apollo astronauts in the parade and everything. It was crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if we'll be able to be that grand in 2022, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
The booyah chicken will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that?
The booyah chicken.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Cool. Biggest animal we'll get.
Booyah, the chicken showed up at our concert last week, so that was fun to see. Park program's going good, special events, forestry, the Emerald Ash Borer tree removal started, I think 2 weeks ago. The company's coming in every Thursday and Friday and taking down as many trees as they can, and they'll literally be doing that for the rest of the year. And that'll be earmarked Highway 41 to the east, to the river. And then next year, again, will be Highway 41 to the west.
How's the park program going for like kiddos turnout wise for this year?
For the what program?
The park program.
The park program, you know what, I haven't gotten the numbers on it.
Okay.
I've been to a couple of the parks. I was just at Fort Howard the other day. And certain parks are always busier. Fort Howard probably had about 15, 20 kids hanging out with the parkies
Okay.
doing some different games.
Mine
Some are busier than
I
others.
said my kids haven't gone yet this year, and we went quite a bit last year, so I was just curious about that. I have a job now. I don't take them places.
What,
They would go to Smith.
Smith, okay.
That's not the closest one, but that's where all the cool kids were at for them, so. It's where their friends went.
I can say that Fort Howard, Smith, and Sand Acres are the busiest parks and, that we have, just in terms of numbers.
I'm curious about Argonne, how that one's different, new, like being moved back to it this year.
Yeah, the preliminary thought on that is the numbers are not very large.
Okay,
There are some kids that are there on a daily
Right.
basis, but they're not anywhere near
what Valley View would get?
just in general,
Okay.
what they maybe should be. And again, you know, it's an area where there's multiple parks already. You've got a playground at Valley View. We don't have the park program there anymore, but
Right,
you also have Canterbury that has a park program, which is literally 2 or 3 blocks away from
Okay.
Argonne. So, I mean, we've hemmed and hawed in the past about, you know, how
Right.
many park programs do we need to serve that neighborhood?
right.
And you know, we'll take a look at it again at the numbers at the end of the year and kind of figure it out.
Rex, has Tim said anything about the ash trees? It seems like this year you can really tell the ones that are
Yeah, they hit.
bad.
Yep.
Is it
There's
the
dead-
weather
there's
this
dead
year?
trees everywhere.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, I've never noticed it so much. I knew we had a lot, and I'm like, holy cow, everywhere you see them, they all look like they just overnight are taken out.
Yep.
You know, that they're just doing so poorly.
Yep. You are correct. They're all over.
Yeah.
Public, private,
Yeah.
you know, everywhere.
It's easy to identify which are ash trees because they're the ones with no leaves.
It's pretty easy. There might be the rare root girdling on a maple, but
Yeah.
pretty much 95% of the dead trees you see along the roadways right now are the ash. And once it takes a couple of years, once the tree is infected, for it to die, but once like that third year hits, bang, it goes quick.
Yeah.
It goes quick.
That's what my beautiful little ash trees are hanging on for dear life. Just keep looking more and more sad every day. So unfortunately, I still have to do the leaves this fall. Die or get cut down, one of the two. But.
And then I don't have numbers right now, but Ashwaubenon Lake has been going well. The numbers there have been strong this summer, and we've had some decent weather days. We haven't had we've had a couple rainy days during the week, but we've also had some very hot days. So our numbers are pretty decent. We've had two serious incidences there. Both involved seizures. One was in the water, one was out of the water. Staff handled the situation very well. Melody does a good job with the training and preparing her staff to handle situations like that. And it's a younger staff and an inexperienced staff, and they did a really nice job. So
One was really recent, right?
Continue
Like
to give her
week?
kudos. What's that?
Last week was one of them. This
Sunday, there was a on-beach seizure on Sunday from one of our
I
patrons.
remember seeing the ambulance go through the top lot.
Yep. And then I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, I think was another one. That was an in-water one that person was noticed fairly quickly, and staff as well as bystanders helped that person out of the water. They never went under the water, basically, which is what you want. You want to get them out of the water quickly before they have a chance to inhale anything. So, but anyway, long story short, the lake is going well, plugging away. So, questions on anything that I didn't cover, or that you would like maybe some information on?
Swim lessons in the fall, is that going back to the normal schedule, like pre-COVID, or like is that going to be less numbers again, like swimming lessons at the
I would imagine
Cool.
it's going to be pre-COVID numbers as long as COVID doesn't ramp up again.
Got it.
So we don't have to wear masks. We can get in the water with
I was to
kids.
say, I don't have to get in the water, do I?
No. That was during COVID.
Mosquito bites and swimsuits.
That
tell
went
ya.
away in May, starting in May or June. So all of our lessons being taught right now are with the instructors in the water.
And at full capacity or not quite?
Summer is never full capacity.
Got it.
Maybe one or two early time slots. The 9:45 slot is usually full capacity, but there's usually openings in the summer session. Fall, winter, spring, pre-COVID is when we were going gangbusters. We probably had 175 kids in there, per session.
Right.
We'll see what happens. That now that we're, again, it all depends on the virus and people's comfort level. So I think at the end of, in the spring, when things were loosening up a little bit, our numbers were starting to go back up. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I just have a
Any
couple
other program?
oddball things, if I can ask. Can you ask Tim to look at the corner of Circle and Ridge? There's a planting bed there that is really overgrown. It's almost to the point where you can't see when you're like me in my smaller car. I have trouble seeing to the north clear. So if you could just check on that. It looks like the resident had put it there, and it's just not being maintained anymore. I think the house has changed hands a couple times.
Talking vision triangle stuff, Tracy.
Pardon?
So it's a private bed.
Private bed, yep.
Okay.
North
Yeah.
side, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to see, the weeds are getting pretty tall. The other thing I've noticed on the Industrial Park Trail at Ashwaubenon Street, there must be some employees from that wrecker service that's right next to the trail there, where they have all the cars that have been in crashes. There's two employees that must park just to the west side of the trail, but they're buttoned up right against the trail, and it's really difficult for anyone coming out of that trail to be seen or to see to safely cross there. So I don't know if we could just talk to them and ask them please not to park there, or if we wanted to mark it for no parking, because it is dangerous and it's very difficult to see. And I've noticed in the industrial park lately, a lot more parking right next to the trail. So maybe just keep an eye on that and see if there's some point, because I know a lot of trails, they put no parking.
Yeah, no, we can,
Trail?
I mean, we can start the process of asking for X amount of feet on either side of the trail be painted.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, in that area, it's,
Or marked.
I think they've been parking there all the time lately, so at least to address that. But yeah, I think it's a good thing to look at, because when people are coming out of there, if they can't see or the cars can't see them and having the parked vehicles there makes it that much more difficult. So I've just noticed that lately, there's a lot more parking out there, close to the trail.
Sure, I'm just wondering if I can probably talk with code enforcement on that.
Yeah,
first.
that'd be great. That'd be great. The other question I have, I don't know if it would come here or maybe to Village Board, if we could have a report from the Performing Arts Center, how they're doing, how things are going, what's coming up, and maybe that would be more appropriate for Village Board.
That's typically given directly to Village Board,
Okay.
and I know Kate has given them in the past. So I'm sure some, I don't know if something's scheduled or.
Mary and I met with Kate and Keith Lucius from the school district maybe 2-3 weeks ago already, just to kind of get a schedule put together where they'll be presenting likely either quarterly or semi-annually on the status of the PAC.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
so I would anticipate something here quickly,
Okay.
probably within the next couple months.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that's it.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Sorry.
All good questions or comments. Does anybody have anything else?
How about for the next meeting's agenda? Not yet, huh?
Maintenance items, I know was on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures of what we talked about at Ashwaubenon.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
This conference is no longer being recorded.